And we are live, and we are lucky today to be with the one and only AJ Calvin here on A Book and a Beverage. AJ,
Woo.
how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you?
Oh, been better, been worse, but no one cares about me. Um,
Oh, I've been worse. No one cares about me. Oh,
no, just have people here to make fun of me. That's fine. Um,
man, tell you what, dude. You're all the way.
so Mr. Wolf is excited. Um,
Like, I should probably wait until a few more people come on, but I want to share with people. I got some mail from someone, a text actually. This is from a guy named John in Vermont, and I'm going to read this to you verbatim. Says, was just checking into your YouTube channel, and the first thing I have to say about your channel partner is dot 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 quote, you fell victim to one of the classic blunders, the most famous of which is never get involved in a land war in Asia, but only slightly well still known is never going against a Sicilian when death is on the line. So yeah, he pegged this whole program pretty well in one sitting. It was thank you, John in Vermont.
I do just want to remind people we will actually be on tomorrow. We are doing our unpublished authors have questions show again, and I will die on this hill if necessary. But the absolute nicest man in all of Canada will join us,
Oh, Canada. Sorry.
and that's Mr. Stewart, P.L. Stewart.
All right, good deal. And
He
maybe
is a
people will
super
actually get
nice
some
guy.
people get some decent advice for once. That'd be good, huh?
But
There's-
we're not here to talk about that today. We're here to talk about the wonderful AJ. So we asked you off screen, but how many books do you have out now?
I have 9 right now, and number 10 will publish in November.
And how many books do you have written but not published?
Oh boy.
Hold on to your seat, folks.
9 or 10.
Oof.
Good God. And
Like
you're
I
like
said, I
a
have a big backlog of stuff that I've written, and it's in some form of getting ready to publish at some point. I just don't know when that point will be.
Sorry,
that
I'm going
is
through the list of names here, making sure everybody who said hi gets on the screen.
yeah, EL says 9 books is awesome. I just wanted to point out that you said 9 or 10 that are sitting in a drawer waiting to be published. Nine that are done, but another decade's worth of work for most of us kind of sitting around. So obviously then, if you've got all of this done, you are a stay-at-home person with no job and no life.
If only. No, I'm a microbiologist. I do that 40 hours a week and um, play in the lab with my bacteria and you know that kind of stuff.
Can you show us? Yeah, there you go.
Microbiologist.
Oh my God.
So,
That was not what I don't even know what John 4 is going to say. Hey, can I like take just a minute of your time real quick? Because I promised the last show that I would do Book and a Beverage justice by doing something. I've never done this before. I don't know how it's going to go, but we're going to do it for y'all because you're here and you're watching this, and I'm a sad little man.
and your
So,
wife is not here to stop you.
and there's no one here to stop me. That's right, and that's why I'm in my kitchen right now. So, highball glass. Uh,
Liquid death.
Jägermeister. Oh, we used to drink this stuff by the glass. Anyway, so what we do is this is like Vic's Formula 44D with attitude. It's great stuff. So we take one of these and then we put it in here and we flip it over and then you fill up around the side with Sprite. EL Jägermeister's the stuff, man. It helps clean out all the
Everything.
all your sinuses and everything. Yeah, it's great. It's medicinal. So we pour the Sprite around the side. I'll lift up the glass here in a bit.
This is why Tim McKay is logged in, because you don't get this anywhere else.
This is the science as we get right here, AJ. This is science as I get. And then for fun, just because we can, a little bit of grenadine on the edge. Should probably do this over a spoon or something. So now I don't know why they call it the Darth Vader, but I guess it's supposed to be because of the way that looks, like Darth Vader's helmet. Yeah?
I can see that.
Yeah, all right. So let's give it a shot. See what it's like, shall we?
And he's going to pound the whole thing. Oh my.
Because I'm not a sissy. It's not bad. Yeah. So if you want to try that at home, please do. And tell us what you think. Yeah. All right. Back to what we're here for. Thank you for indulging me in that. We'll try another recipe some other day here in the future. Have to find something good.
My drink
Ah.
is much less exciting. It's green tea with pomegranate.
But you probably have to work tomorrow.
Yes, I have to
Yeah,
work tomorrow.
I do not. So that's the other reason I'm doing it. So I have to work tomorrow. Oh, EL, come on, man.
You know what you're signing up for. At least you should.
We've made no pretense about it.
We have like 160 some odd shows. It's not like you shouldn't be warned.
Right? And you've been here for half of all of them.
At least.
So.
Well, probably half of all of the shows, you mean. Because, he gets banned.
Well, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Half of. Anyway. So, tell us, you have a book coming out in November, right? We'll get back to this real quick. What are the books that you have out right now? Because I saw on your webpage, and for anybody interested at home, it is ajcalvin.net, not .com. You're writing in a variety of genres.
Yeah, most of my stuff is epic fantasy. I have two different series. The Relics of War is the completed trilogy, and there's a standalone that's related to it and a novella. And then I have the Kayan Legacy, which is a slightly different style of epic fantasy. The first three books of that series are out now, and book 4 is coming in November. And then I have an urban fantasy, Hunted, which I don't talk too much about because it's so different than the rest of my stuff, and I don't know what I'm doing with it, to be honest. So
That's not your pitch for it, is it?
no, it's not. I do have some of my books here, so I can at least show you the cover.
Yes,
Hunted
please.
is I'm not good with the camera. It's set in Seattle, so we've got, some of the Seattle skyline on there, and
And it's raining, so perfect.
yep.
Okay. Hey, EL, as he's wont to do, wants to know about the picture over your right shoulder. The one with the green in the bottom corner.
Oh,
Because
that is
EL cares about these things.
character artwork from my novella, The Ballad of Alchemy and Steel, and it's the two main characters.
Great name, by the way.
After I got that book finished, I commissioned some character artwork.
Are those
printed
all
it
your
out
book
and
covers
stuck it on.
framed up behind you there?
Yep.
Well, that's pretty awesome.
There's more on the other side of the room that you can't see too.
So you
My
just have
husband's
this.
always teasing me I'm gonna run out of space one day. It might
That's right.
happen.
You have to downgrade to 5x7s,
I might have to, yeah.
Or get a bigger house.
or get a bigger house. There you go. Tell them to put on an extension. Damn it. Oh, my Motorola. That's cold. So, which genre do you find you like the best? The cozy fantasy or the sci fantasy with your cyborgs, or
Um, I don't know. I like all of it. It's just it's fun and the Cyborg book, that's my sci-fi space opera that's coming out next year.
how does one go
That one
about
is a
starting
standalone.
to write a space opera?
Um, that one's a really interesting story. So the very first, I'll call it a book that I wrote, I was 12 or 13. It was over summer break and it was ridiculous. But some of those characters stuck with me. So it's kind of where this whole space opera thing started. And, fast forward almost 30 years later, um, I finally figured out a storyline to use some of these characters in properly. And like I had played with it off and on over the years and added new characters, added new places and stuff. And nothing clicked until I wrote that a couple years ago. Um, and then it just all came together. I'm more excited about that book coming out than anything else I've published. I think just because it's been with me for most of my life.
So, at 12 years old, you were writing books and thinking about space operas while I was putting baseball cards on the spoke of my bicycle.
I've
Yeah.
always been writing stories. Like as long as I've been able to write, I think I was just writing stories for fun because
So, why'd you get into
what I wanted
microbiology?
to
To piss off your parents or what?
do. um, that was I don't know. It was partially um
Rebelling. I'll show
decision.
you. I'm going to be smart. Damn it. I'm going to get a job where I can buy a house.
My dad worked in aerospace for a very long time. And so I kind of got interested in science from him. And it was one of those things like as I was going into college, I was actually planning to be a music major, which is another completely different tangent. And then I realized that I probably wouldn't be able to do that full time. And I was afraid if I went into a writing degree, I would burn myself out. And I love writing. I didn't want to ruin that for myself. So I decided to do science.
Um, at the risk of making myself feel even worse about myself, what instrument or instruments do you play?
I played the flute. I haven't played in quite a few years, but I
What
did band and orchestra in high school and a little bit at the beginning of college. Um, I was good enough to get into all state orchestra my senior year of high school,
good
but
God.
it just wasn't
So you were kind
it
of
wasn't
walking
something
that
I stuck
line
with.
of, do I want to be a nerd? Do I want to be a geek? What do I do? What do I do? Okay.
Pretty
So
much.
I
can
say
we
that in the best possible way.
can we address Tim Wolf's question here, or statement, I should say? Are there any
Yeah,
promises
so
you'd like to make?
he's referring to Legend, which will be available on November 26th. That's the last book in the KN Legacy. He's been following the series since the beginning. I can tell you that it will have a happy ending. I'm not going to tell you what the main character goes through to get there. There's a lot, but you'll have to read it and find out.
And I really hope that this is true. Herman Estate.
Is that dinner time at your house?
Actually, no, I don't think about it that much. There are certain things that I won't eat because of microbiology.
Such
Um,
as? Don't say Jägermeister.
well, since I live in Colorado and it's landlocked, I will not eat sushi here. because it's not going to be as
That's
fresh as it is in the coast.
that's fair.
Um, that's really the main one.
How do you feel about roadkill?
No
Well,
thanks.
no, in Alaska, you can, if you hit, I think the rule is if you hit the critter, you can't take it. But if you're following the guy who hits the critter, you can.
Well, that's a weird law.
Well,
You can't
it's
go hunting with
Alaska.
your car.
Alaska's a weird place. Okay. Um, with the right sauce, roadkill can be delicious. It depends what it is, in all fairness, Herman. You know? Yeah, it really depends what it is.
Herman's up in Michigan, so you know.
But yeah, yeah. And I've driven the roads in Michigan before, and you almost can't help but hit something. So, car hunting
I've never been out that way, so
to Michigan.
yeah.
Do you travel a lot? Have you traveled a lot?
Not a lot. Really, it's just been probably the last 8 or 9 years that I've traveled much at all. I grew up here in Colorado. We lived in Albuquerque, New Mexico for a few years when I was pretty young, and then we came back. But the last few years we got certified to scuba dive, so we've traveled a few times to do that, mostly to the Caribbean because the water's warm.
Well, yeah, if you're going to go, go.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Not a lot of scuba diving. Colorado's not a big scuba diving kind of mecca.
No,
So,
like we've dove a couple times in some of the local ponds and the water's murky and it's cold. Even in August, it's not fun.
yeah. So, without telling me how old you are, because I know that's a rude question to ask, do you remember when Coors used to be available only west of the Mississippi?
I don't know.
Okay, so you're 40-ish.
Yeah,
Okay.
41.
Um, yeah, I just distinctly remember in high school, Coors was finally available east of the Mississippi in like the mid 80s or something, and it was a big deal. So that was like,
Okay.
that's all Colorado was known for until they changed all the weed laws. And then that's what Colorado
Yeah,
became known for. So I've
unfortunately.
only ever been
I
there once.
yeah. That's when we have traveled or like I've had to go a couple of places for work the last couple of years and that's almost always one of the first questions people ask me, and I'm like, no, it's not my thing. The smell actually makes me sneeze a lot, and it's not fun, so I stay away from it.
But plus, I mean, just imagine how many books you'd have, right? You'd go back, you'd send it to your editor, and your editor would say, "How come this person's just giggling for 5 pages?" You know? And why are they always snacking? What the hell?
Ugh.
John brings up a good point. I can't believe I'm saying this. John 4 actually brings up a good point. Are you in a part of Colorado where you're really high up in altitude?
We're at about 6,500 feet here, so it's the foothills as they call them here. Um,
The
6,500 feet is the foothills. Nice. Nice. The gods of the hills are not the gods of the mountains, my man. Yeah.
we call that the Appalachians.
No, they don't come anywhere near 6,500 feet. I think
I
we're
know.
we're at like 2,000 here, but
yeah.
oh
Yeah,
my God.
if we drive an hour west, we could get up to the top of Trail Ridge Road, which is known as I believe it's still the highest highway that you can drive on, and it's around 11,000 feet.
Oof.
Mike's car would never make that.
So I did take a vacation once at Yellowstone, and I was going to North Dakota, and I took Beartooth Pass, I think it was, and it was up just over 10,000 feet. And I remember I had the worst headache, And then I was like, well, why do I need to stay on the road? I can go down. And I was like,
Oh,
oh my God, I'm
no.
starting to get loopy. I'm like, oh my goodness. So that would absolutely scare me to be on that road. I'm like, nope, nope. 10,000 is too high for Mike. It's at least to be, operating motor vehicles.
Okay, Mount Evans is the highest paved road.
See, everybody learns something coming on this show.
Yep.
You know? Oh, I love some of these comments. All right. We're just picking on Colorado for a while, I guess. You thought you were going to talk about your book, but no, we're just going to bag on Colorado.
So
The
you have more
supplemental
books.
air thing is. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Supplemental air.
Yeah, that comment. It's kind of funny because if you fly into the Denver airport anymore, they have advertisements for that in the little train that you take from like your terminal to baggage claim and stuff. I
They
don't know
sell
if it
air.
actually works. Yeah,
That's
I don't know
that's
if it actually works, but
snake oil
there's
salesman
ads
right
for it.
there. That I applaud that entirely, but
They
wow.
looked at bottled water and said, hey, they got away with it.
Right, right. I remember saying when bottled water first came out, it's like, who the hell is paying for this? This is stupid. And here we are. But
So you
anyway,
said you had your books handy and you've only showed us one. And we are trying to talk about your books at least a little bit. So I'll try to lead
this
us
is
back.
like doing something and charging it to the business card. We have to talk about your book at least like I think 8 minutes out of the hour for us
Okay.
to hit that kind of that number.
So do
This
you
is
have
much
more?
more fun with a couple of drinks, man. You should try it.
So what else do you have for us handy series wise?
Um, all right. So I have the first book of my trilogy. Um, I'm so bad at this. The Moon's Eye, which is the first book of the Relics of War trilogy. Um, that one's more of like your classical type fantasy, where you have a lot of viewpoint characters and huge, big, epic battles, a lot of magic, kind of the good versus evil thing going on. And then the Kayan Legacy, which is the one that I think most people know me for, is so Exile is the first book. Um, and I've had some comments. It's a little bit different than what most people expect for an epic fantasy that's meant for adult readers because it's written in first person.
Woohoo!
And yeah, and that one's the one that has the dragon in it, or half dragon, as he likes to remind people. He's only half dragon, but
What's the other half?
he's half human.
That's
So
interesting.
yes.
I I
um,
I
so
my mind
the
can't help but go
backstory,
to the how.
yeah. So the backstory is his father was a dragon mage, and he had the ability to make himself look human, and then he hooked up with a human, and
Oh,
then the main
oh.
character resulted. He can switch between forms, is his thing.
Okay, that makes more sense then. Do you find
There's
yourself
magic involved.
as a sciencey person trying to make things make sense?
I do with certain elements. Like with the dragon shifter, I'm just like, okay, magic. We can justify it that way. But
Sure.
with other things, so I guess I can go back a little bit, back to the college discussion. When I was deciding on which science I wanted to go into, I was thinking about entomology because I've always had a fascination with bugs. And so in the KN Legacy, there is a species called the Coridan, and they're sentient insects that are sort of a cross between praying mantis and army ants in my mind, but they're much larger. And um, the main character has a few encounters with them. But in terms of like the fantasy stuff, I don't try too hard to make things scientifically accurate. When I was writing the space opera, though, I had so much fun because I was able to talk about genetics and, um, you know, some of the physics and stuff. And like, I get excited about science stuff too. So it was sort of a nice change of pace for my brain when I was working on that project.
Um, yeah, once again, I forgot I don't have my pen and paper next to me, so I can't write
So,
down the questions I think of as I'm thinking
so
of them.
I'll just tell you, I published my first sci-fi novel. And as a chemist, I'm like, well, how do the recycling systems work? So I have an entire grid of, this is how you convert this to here, and I'm like, can't wait to talk about this. I'm like, who wants to read a sci-fi book that talks about recycling, you know, organics? So I have the one I'm writing now. They're actually in the ship. They're going to see the gas giants, and I'm like, ooh, I can use my astronomy knowledge, and I can start dropping facts about Jupiter. And I'm like, huh.
See, and if it was me writing that, I'd be saying a gas giant. I can make fart jokes. All right, so there's the difference, I guess. Um, yeah, it's coming to me. Hold on. Yes. Totally aside, have you ever listened to the Off Menu podcast?
I haven't.
It's a couple of
What's
British
that one about?
comedians who do it. Okay, if you've never heard it, doesn't matter. Uh, Plotter or Pantser?
More on the plotter side, but I don't like plot individual chapters. I just have an outline of what needs to happen in the story. So it keeps me on track. I don't know if a hybrid is an
No,
option.
that's a
'Cause
perfectly
sometimes things
acceptable
happen
answer.
and then I have to change it.
No, that's fine. I think a lot of people kind of do that after a while, and you've written 18 books or whatever, so yeah, I'd be surprised if you were a pure pantser at this point. Now, does the hubs help you out with reading things and kind of saying, yeah, you're going astray here, or is he just kind of let you do it?
No, he gets to read all my stuff before anybody else does, and he does give me some pretty good feedback. Um, Sometimes he'll be like, well, with the space opera, this just came up a couple weeks ago. He was like, so you mentioned this here, but I think you need to explain it more because not everybody's going to know what you're talking about. He knew what I was talking about because he lives with me and
Right.
he knows like how my science brain works, but um yeah, he gives me some pretty good feedback.
So when I hear space opera or whatever, I'm normally keying on the word opera. Are are you listening to music? Does that have any kind of input into how this is built, or are you just using that as a term that has nothing to do with music whatsoever?
For me it doesn't have anything to do with music. It's just I think of that as the genre where you visit like a bunch of different planets, moons, whatever. Um, and
Like,
there's a lot of that moving around the galaxy thing in my book. In
so
terms of music, I listen to music when I'm driving a lot, but not when I'm writing. It distracts me.
What's on your playlist?
Um, I listen to, well, today on my way home, I was listening to Avenged Sevenfold and Breaking Benjamin. So,
That's better than, you know, top 20 radio. Dare I ask her, Mike?
go ahead.
Trek or Wars?
Star Wars. I've actually not really seen much Star Trek in my life, so that was always my brother's thing.
How could you avoid it?
I don't know. It didn't, I don't know.
Mike has to say Star Wars because he's wearing a red shirt today, and he knows that if he said anything else, you know, death would
See, I
come to
do
him through the
understand
door.
that reference.
Okay, well, that's good at least. Um, Mike, what do you got?
I have random questions.
Yeah.
Ooh, a 20.
Hmm.
Okay, so this is a silly question for you. You have to pick one: a week at your day job or a week spent on an adventure with your main character.
I'll take the adventure. My
Which
day
which
job is
main
very
character?
routine.
Which main
Um,
character?
does it have to be from a published book?
Yeah.
No, it's your work.
Um, that's a tough question. It like surprisingly. Um,
Ooh, hard hitting questions here.
we'll
Well, no,
we'll
it's
say
because she has so
we'll
many to
say
choose from, Mike.
I
yeah.
know.
We'll say this main character, but after the conflict is over.
After, as Rocket Raccoon would say, gone for the danger, there for the money. Oh, fine.
Ooh. Okay, and I have another question that we haven't asked in a while. If you could have any mythical creature as a pet, what would you choose and why?
This has actually come up a couple times between me and my husband, and I go back and forth between a dragon and a T-Rex because I think both of them would be intimidating enough to scare the salesman away and they wouldn't come bother me.
Of all the reasons that you could want a T-Rex around your house, that is one I hadn't considered.
We've had quite a few not just salespeople randomly show up, but like since it's an election year, the
Oh yeah.
clipboard
Oh,
people
yeah.
too, and I'm just like, no, I don't want to talk to you.
Just put a big old communist flag outside your house. Go away. T-Rex. Good grief. Little tiny arms.
Hey, I would rather have it ride a T Rex than a Griffin. That is one of our questions. Down the main street of your town, what would you rather have? And T Rex is the only proper answer.
I disagree.
Yeah, I think that would be more fun than a griffin. Like people would recognize it better and they'd get out of the way, right?
They absolutely would.
Yes.
There's no doubt about that. Um, where do you find time to do all of this writing
Um,
between the scuba diving and the sciencing and you know the traveling and
I
Scaring the
usually
salespeople.
get a little bit of time in the morning before I have to leave for work. And then my weekends, I spend quite a bit of time writing on the weekends, if we don't have other stuff going on.
when you say get up early to write, what are you looking at?
Um, it's usually well, we're usually up around 5. My husband leaves for work pretty early, like 6:30ish, and like he gets up, so I get up, and then I have another usually 45 minutes or so after he's gone before I have to leave, so I spend that time working on writing projects.
So, have you been late to work because you just couldn't stop writing the scene that you were on?
It's happened a few times.
Yeah, nice. What do you tell them then? Just kind of go, got my COVID shot yesterday.
No, priorities.
Well, thankfully with my current job, they're pretty flexible. So they're like, well, if you got here a little late, just stay a little late. We don't care, just as long as you put your time in. So that's been nice.
So, what does a microbiologist work on a day-to-day basis?
Um, so on like a routine week, if I'm busy, I'll spend some time in the clean room taking samples. We have to make sure that the microbial levels are below a certain limit, and then those samples will incubate for 5 to 7 days, and then I have to look at the plates and count how many colonies grew and kind of do some preliminary ID testing on those. I also test products and water for microbial load.
Okay, so nobody's watching. Nobody of importance will ever see this. Have you ever been doing something like that and your mind started drifting off to your stories? Then like 10 minutes later, you know how like you go through a couple sets of lights on your drive home and you go, oh my God, I don't remember those lights at all. Yeah, okay. And have you sat there and gone, oh crap, did I do this? And then have to restart something?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, excellent,
I've had that happen a few
fantastic.
times, yeah.
Somebody
And then
tells
to
the truth.
answer
Yay.
that question, do my coworkers know I'm a writer? Yes, some of them do. A couple of them have actually bought some books. Um, most most of the people I work with don't read fiction, so a lot of them they're like, "Oh, that's cool," but they're not going to read it because um, there's quite a few PhDs I work with, and I think all they read is nonfiction. I was kind of surprised, but maybe I shouldn't be. I don't know. I don't have
Because
a
they went through all that trauma in middle school and high school, and now they've just learned to kind of lean into it a little bit, and now it's a point of pride
maybe.
to them that they won't do that kind of thing. I think that's what it is. Like I spent, a good 10 years of my life being abused for what I do, and now I'm just going to, so yeah, their loss.
So my boss does not read fiction, but she buys every one of my books in hardback and paperback, and neither her
Oh
nor her
wow.
husband nor her daughter read. So wonderful boss.
Yes.
They're preppers and they need fuel.
Now, you know what? That's fine. I have more. I will sell them as many as they want. Oh, so are you prepared to go into the Bald Dome, AJ?
Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't
He's
do
shaking his head. Should I be afraid?
So I need
it.
you to
Nah,
pick
be
one
fine.
of your characters from your book
Okay.
or books, sorry. So
EL, I've read it several times. Thank you.
what we're going to do is I'm going to roll a bunch of dice,
We
Okay.
and
don't we don't know why he rolls a bunch of dice because his list isn't that long and he doesn't spend nearly enough time where you think he's adding them up. I think he's just doing it for the sound effect. He probably knows what he's going to do
exactly.
anyway,
Don't give away all my secrets.
just
So
to prove he actually has dice.
exactly. So which character is going to be going into the Bald Dome, AJ?
Um, we'll use Andrew Cahan since he's the main character of the book that I will be publishing in November.
So tell us a little bit about this character.
He is the half dragon character that I
Right.
was talking about
Oh,
earlier.
okay.
He's
Can he change at will or is he limited to a certain amount of times or
he can change at will in most cases. I don't want to elaborate too much because
sure?
things happen in book 4 that some of the readers haven't experienced yet. Um, in the first book, he's not terribly comfortable with his dragon form because he's been hiding for his entire life. Mostly because where he lives, they are allowed to hunt dragons for sport. So he's
Yeah,
trying to
that
stay
would
under
put a
the
damper
radar.
on it. Yeah. So your character's name again is
Andrew,
Andrew, and what
mhm.
is your favorite color?
My favorite color is green.
Okay, so Andrew finds himself in a cursed swamp inhabited by monstrous creatures.
Ooh, the rodents of unusual size.
So he has a green fizzy potion. He does not know what it does, but I will tell you if he drinks it or if he throws it at whatever he encounters, it's 100% will work.
Comes in a bottle like this.
It is not Jägermeister. Um, so now we get to the point where you get a choice. You can give Andrew a common item or a weapon. If he takes the common item, he will face a common animal. If he takes the weapon, he will face a mythical creature. So, which would you prefer? Or which would
If it
Andrew
was
prefer?
Andrew making the decision, he would choose the weapon.
Okay, so he could have had a wooden mallet, but instead he's going for a halberd. So,
Okay.
so nice weapon. And instead of facing a venomous taipan, the most toxic snake in the world, found in Australia,
Of
he
course
gets
it is.
of course it's in Australia.
Yeah.
That's redundant. He is facing, ooh, this is new, a spectral wraith. So he has a halberd.
Okay.
He's facing a wraith. He has a green fizzy potion, and he is in what did we say he was in? 15. That is a cursed swamp inhabited by monstrous creatures that play no effect in this
Now,
situation.
I haven't played D&D in quite a long time, but a halberd against a spectral wraith is as good as an inner tube.
I was gonna say, wouldn't the weapon be useless against a wraith?
Doesn't iron affect ghosts? I don't know. I don't play D&D,
I don't
so
know. I haven't either. So
but we did the stipulation because we started. It was like gladiatorial games. You have to fight to the death, and then we had people like my character's not a warrior, so I was like, so you just tell us what happens. Paint us a picture. What would Andrew do in this situation?
I think. Oh, what would he do? Is he allowed to assume his dragon form?
The rules of your world are still in effect here. So yes.
Okay. So he would probably do that and fight that way. I don't know how that would work against a wraith because there aren't any of those in that world.
So well, it's your world. So what would
But
affect the wraith?
I'm trying to think like what he would do. So
So if he breathed fire on a wraith, wouldn't that kind of disperse it?
so my dragons don't breathe fire.
Oh
That
well,
was
that's a downer.
one of the things that I did not do because I couldn't figure out like a biological mechanism for fire breathing, so they don't
Fair.
breathe fire.
And don't forget he has that green fizzy potion.
Okay. Well, what happens if he throws the green fizzy potion at the wraith?
Um, well, like I said, 100% that it works. So he just threw his potion of levitation, which really does nothing in this whole encounter. And the wraith is able to float up to 20 feet off the ground now.
Okay. So he's in his dragon form. He can fly to match the elevation.
And Herman was so close when he said 40-minute mark for EL to be banned, but only 37 minutes. And Price is Right rules, Herman, so you lose. So now they're both 20 feet up in the air. What does Andrew do? Does he combat the thing? Does he fly away? Does he fly through the forest and scare up other mystical creatures for it to hunt?
He'd probably attack first just to see what happens.
He's
He's
toying
one
with
of
it.
those types that tends to fight first and then figure things out.
That's the scientist in you coming out because he's testing something. It's like, this is my control group. I'm going to breathe fire at it.
And this is why the book is going to end happily, because it's a scientist. So Ro, you are our expert on D&D matters because you've actually
No,
played it. I've
but
never played, so So wraith, is it affected by iron from a halberd or flame from a dragon? Oh no flame. Sorry, that's right, no flames in this dragon. So
it's a flameless dragon.
yes.
Yeah, my dragons don't breathe fire.
Um, I don't know about the iron. I don't think so. I think it would need to be a magical weapon or like a cleric or something doing something against a wraith. I mean, stomach acid is always a good, can try that, but I don't know that.
So
I don't
Ro,
know, man. I don't know.
how many years has it been since you played D&D?
Oh Christ, dude, it was like D&D second edition rules had just coming out. This was like the late 80s. Been a long
So
time.
like 40 years ago?
35.
35. Okay, anybody in the chat, if you're younger than 35, please let us know.
Here, I'll Google it. You can ask something else.
Okay, Andrew probes it. It is your world. So is he able to affect the wraith? Yes or no?
I'm gonna say no.
Okay. So what does he do then? Does he have an E. coli bacteria colony to throw at it?
What did he do then? He's not one
According
to give up. So, I really don't know. This is
Oh,
they're immune to physical damage. Okay.
that
yeah,
makes it more difficult.
according to game FAQs, it requires magic.
Hmm.
But I would say that a dragon is an inherently magical creature.
And if it had fire, it could take care of the wraith, but it does not.
But if it's a magical creature, then it could eat the damn thing. You know.
I like the eating the wraith version.
Okay. So there we go. We have our story then. Thank you for entering the Bald Dome. Oh, wait. Tim has a question.
I was thinking about that. I almost asked, could he call his brother for help? Because his brother is a mage.
Ah, well, there you go.
That would have been useful, yeah. But unfortunately, he had already used his call a friend, and yeah, that's not the way this works. All right, so remind us again what book is coming out in November, 2 days before Thanksgiving.
So that is Legend, book 4 of the Kayan Legacy.
And how many books will there be in this series?
Just 4. So this is the last book.
Okay,
It will be complete.
Then what are you pulling out of your top shelf drawer next? I'm just amazed by this still. I'm going to keep going on about it.
Yeah, so I'm planning to publish Wraith and the Revolution next summer, speaking of wraiths, which is the sci-fi. And then after that, I don't know, because I'm in the middle of writing the Mage War Chronicles, which is a related series to the Kayan Legacy, but it's set 1,000 years before, so it's in the same world. And I'm currently working on book 7 of that series. But it's one of those that every book has a different main character, and some of the storylines intersect here and there, and I'm trying to keep everything consistent between books, so I don't want to start publishing that until I have all of them at least drafted. And
Do you find it
there's going to be at
difficult?
least 9 books.
Do you find it difficult going backwards 1,000 years in a world and trying to say, okay, if this stuff is in my world now, what wouldn't be there 1,000 years previously?
That hasn't really been an issue. What sparked this series is, while I was writing the Kayan Legacy, there's mention of the Mage War a couple times here and there, and I was like, it might be interesting to explore that event when the mages were fighting each other. So.
And you thought exploration required 7 volumes?
At least.
Yeah, okay. Well, it is a war after all. That's fair, I guess.
Yeah.
So, AJ, I have a question that I've been meaning to ask people like for the last month, and I've always forgot. I mean to do it at the end of the show, but since I never remember, I'm going to do it now. Okay. Have you seen Beard of Darkness?
Yes.
So
I was on his channel once.
No, when he interviews people, he always puts them to the test. Say, okay, give me 3 authors' names that we should interview. So I'm going to do this. Who should I be interviewing, or who should we be interviewing?
Now we're asking our guests to do our work for us?
Yes.
The one part of our job that we actually have to do, we're outsourcing to guests now?
Hey, I'm the one who schedules. Don't be saying this we stuff.
Oh, yeah, that's fair. All right, go ahead.
Well, not knowing who all you've already interviewed.
That's okay.
Um,
We've
Party
interviewed
foul.
him, so don't tell us him.
okay. Um, I would say Joe Byrne, who writes the Hybrid Helix series.
Yep.
He seems like a really fun person, and I love his books. I'm currently reading book 5 of that series. Trying to think. Um, um,
I will
I've
say most.
interacted a little bit with PL Stewart, and I think you mentioned earlier that he'll be on your show tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I think you already have that one covered, maybe. He's a really nice guy. And in terms of interesting world building questions, I would say C.B. Lansdell. She wrote Far Removed. Um, that is a
Oh,
really, really
yep.
fascinating book.
We had her on. Yes, that I
Oh,
love that book. Um, so okay. Well, you're off the hook. We've actually interviewed all three of them, but
oh,
hey,
okay. Well,
great minds think alike.
We need to
So
meet more people.
that's why I want to ask this question. So let's see, Ro, you got anything? I have serious questions if need be, but that's only if we're desperate.
I want to hear a serious question that you think you have. I'm
Well,
I'm
ChatGPT.
intrigued.
So let's see. Let's let's go with what is the hardest part of producing a fantasy book?
I, hmm. I don't think I've ever thought about that before because I just like I feel like I've been writing fantasy forever and it just like comes um if I go back to the Mage War Chronicles, I'm going to say with the way I structured that series, it's been challenging with the timelines since
Yeah,
every book has a different main character, but certain events happen in more than one book or they're mentioned. And I have to make sure that, okay, we're at this point and then this thing happens here. So I need to make sure that like it happens at the same
yeah.
point in time, even though that the story is different for that book. That's been the real challenge for me recently.
How about the marketing aspect of it? How do you approach that?
Um, probably poorly. I mean, I do my best. I run ads off and on. They do okay sometimes, sometimes not. I still am trying to figure that part out. Um, in-person events have worked out pretty well. I've done a few in the last little bit. I haven't done anything since April because I had surgery in May and I was out for really a couple months trying to recover from that. But um, the in-person events have worked out really well. I've done some local Comic Cons. Um, fantasy and sci-fi books do pretty well in those events. Um,
Yeah, I mean, Comic-Cons, everybody who walks into a Comic-Con reads fantasy, right? It's
mhm.
just whether or not, they, have any money to buy them, or whether or not, depending who's there for guests, and whether or not
Mhm.
they have to buy like a $300 lightsaber or something.
Or Funko
Right.
Pops. Don't forget the
Yeah,
Funko.
Funko Pops, right on, right, right.
Right.
EL actually has a very pertinent question for, so at a show, what kind of sales are you looking for when you go to a reasonable size Comic-Con?
I'm just trying to make enough sales to cover the cost of the table.
Okay.
Um, the best one I did was actually in Casper, Wyoming in April. Um, and we drove up there and I had one person the first day come over and she's like, "Oh, fantasy books. I want one of those and one of those." She bought one of every one of my books.
I love
And I
those
was like,
people.
Yeah.
"You just paid for my table." Like,
Right.
it was so cool.
Thank you.
Um,
Go bring a friend. Yeah.
yeah.
So
So
so in a Comic-Con in Wyoming, are there people walking around with cowboy hats non-ironically?
I didn't see any cowboy hats.
Okay.
so I have to tell the story because it's still like the high point of my whole Comic Con career. I was there at Comic Con and a guy came up and he's like, I love your books. I wrap my hardback books in the map that the story is told in. He's like, I really love those hardbacks. And his wife's like, but will you ever open them to read them? He's like, you're right. I probably won't. Can I have all four of your books in hardback and paperback? And I'm like,
That's awesome.
yes.
That's awesome.
It would have been great until he, what the look he gave the guy's wife when he turned his back. He's like, ah, ha, ha. So,
So yeah,
never see them again.
that will. Oh, there we go.
I would insert a Texas joke, but I won't.
So we are having unpublished authors on tomorrow night, and you were once one of them.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Uh,
like decades ago. She's been doing
so
this since she was 12, man.
what is your best advice to give the unpublished authors?
Don't go on Bald&Balding. Too late.
Um, my best tip, something that I learned early on, follow Writer Beware because they will alert you of all of the agent scams, the people that are trying to get your money and will never follow through, the Hollywood scams, all of that. Um, because I fell victim to one of those early on. It wasn't a lot of money, but um I felt like an idiot afterwards. But yeah, Writer Beware is a really, really good resource for being aware of what's out there because you'll get emails. Sometimes you'll get random messages on Instagram or Twitter, and these people are always wanting money for something, but they don't ever follow through. Like, so
I think it's a Sight novel.
it's a site. Victoria Strauss is the one that runs most of that blog. She's got a presence on Twitter and Blue Sky. I'm not sure if she's anywhere else.
So
Yeah.
I'll tell you that just today, our IT department decided to send a phishing email out just to test to see if people would actually fall for it or not. And probably the smartest man I know in our group, PhD, he's like, hey, by the
He
way,
clicked on it, huh?
they just sent this out. It's a see if you fail the test or not. I failed. Don't anyone else click on it. And I'm like, he's the smartest man in the entire building.
Is he the smartest man or is he the most well educated?
Yes, both on both counts.
Okay. Because I will die on the hill that there is a distinction,
There's
and,
definitely a distinction.
and an enormous one at that.
Um, I always feel bad for him. He's the one who he came in once the week between Christmas and New Year's, and I was like, Brian, why are you here? You're on vacation. He said the wife got tired of the kids fighting, so she kicked us all out of the house. I can't come back until 5. So he showed up to work, and I'm like,
Oh, jeez.
Went to work.
ugh, he shows up at 8. We think he might come in on the weekends. We're not sure, but he just comes in. He works. He doesn't talk to people very often. He's very nice if he does, but normally he just sits at a desk and goes, and then everyone goes home, and he's still there typing away. And maybe he's writing 17 novels so he can publish them one each month for a year and a half.
That's right. Have you ever been tempted by Kickstarter, AJ?
I haven't tried any yet. I don't really know enough about that process. I've kind of been thinking about maybe doing something for an audiobook because I know those can be really expensive to produce,
Yeah.
but I
But with
haven't
a
looked
7-book
into it yet.
series that's pretty much written and ready to go, that's like perfect for a Kickstarter campaign, um, because people won't have to wait 5 years for all 7 books.
Do you have your books in hardback?
They are available in hardback. I have a couple of the these ones that I've been showing are the hardback. The other ones that I showed were paperback. I don't have a lot of hardbacks on hand right now.
Do you get those
But
done through KDP or
I do the hardcovers through Ingram.
Ingram? That's what. Okay.
I liked the dust jacket. KDP doesn't have that.
Oh, I am team anti-dust jacket, but that's okay.
Yeah, but your team, I won't read a book over 500 pages just because of arbitrary reasons.
So if there's a book with a dust jacket, the first thing I do is I take it off and I throw it away. So
God,
Oh wow, okay.
you're ridiculous. You know what else you are, Mike?
old?
You fell victim to one of the classic blunders, the most famous of which is never get involved in a land war in Asia.
I am inconceivable.
Just silly.
Oh. So let's see. Ro, questions?
No, I just want to say, AJ, tell all your friends that you were here. You, you'd have to admit it, but get them to subscribe to our channel, please, because if you didn't know, Mike has said publicly many times that if we can get to 500 subs by the end of this calendar year, he will get a tattoo on his frickin' noggin. And I really want to see that.
And that's what it will look like.
A dude with a sigh chopping away what's left of his hair.
And if we get to 750, I'll have a couple goats on the other side nibbling on it.
I really just kind of want the 500. I just want a camera right in his face as the first needle goes in.
Nothing would change. I'd just sit there and stare back at you.
You think, huh?
I had 3 brothers growing up. I will not show pain. That showing pain is weakness. I will not do that.
Did they stick a needle in your head?
No, they never thought of it. I did. I will tell you, when I was 4, I got stitches in my lower lip, 7 of them for some reason. I have no idea why. But I went to my mom and I was like, Mom, my whole lip itches. Can we take these out? And she said, well, we're going to see the doctor tomorrow.
Oh, God, I know where this is going.
I said, well, it itches. And she goes, well, we'll take care of that tomorrow. So I went in the other room and I pulled all the stitches out myself.
Oh.
And then I sat there. I was like, I'm going to get in trouble for this, I bet. So I hid them all behind a lamp because I was afraid to go to the garbage can because I might be seen. So I was like, if I just hide them here, no one will see them ever. And then we went to the doctor the next day. He's like, okay, let's take the stitches out. And he's like, they're all gone. And he goes, did you take the stitches out? And I looked at him like, no. And then he just looked at my mom and they just looked at each other and was like, okay, well, we're done here. And I'm like, yes, I fooled them all.
They charged you for it anyway, didn't they?
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Oh, and you grew up to become a chemist.
Yep. I would have been a microbiologist, but at the university I was at, the one teacher would like, you're going to have to memorize page 242, and it's a chart that has, and I'm like, I'm not memorizing the entire chart for a test. That's ridiculous. So I didn't take biochem because of that, and so no microbiology.
I memorized Jabberwocky in 7th grade. Our teacher said anybody who can memorize it and get up and recite it gets an A for the semester, and I'm like, count me in. That's easier than studying.
So do you have a
Did she
Vorpal
give you
blade
the A?
now?
What's that? Yeah, I
Did
got
you
the
get
A. Yeah.
Have you found a Vorpal blade yet?
Dude, no. Would I be sitting here doing this if I had?
Ooh.
AJ, thank you so much for taking an hour of your life and throwing it away on this.
Thank you for having me. This was a lot of fun.
You are welcome back anytime to tell us how many dozens of books you have printed and ready to be printed. How many do you write a year?
Um,
The fact that you're having to think about this is terrifying.
this year isn't a good indication because like when I had the surgery kind of messed me up for a while. But last year, I think I wrote 2.5.
And are these like 150,000 word chonkers or?
Most of my books run around like between 90 and 120,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
The longest one I've written is the sci-fi, but I went into it going, this is going to be a standalone. So
And that
and
now
that one
that's
ended up at like 165-ish.
and it's book one out of how many?
That one's just a
You actually did
standalone.
it as a standalone. You
Yep.
actually held to that. Well done.
Yep.
You have more
I was
self-control that most of us
determined.
don't have.
Okay, so it is the 19th. So I'm going to put you down for the 19th for every month of next year when you publish a book, and you can come on and tell us about this month's book.
All
Ooh.
right.
All right.
Well, thank you very much, AJ, and thank you to all the folks who also spent an hour of their lives that they will never get back. Don't forget the Darth Vader Jägermeister Sprite and a little bit of grenadine, and then just kick it back and enjoy.
Yep.
Thank you
Thank you,
guys again.
AJ. It is time to wave awkwardly.